Okay. Hi, my name is Amy Bailey, and I'm a program coordinator with Safe States Alliance. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Sandy McKay from the University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston to discuss her Partnership in Action Seed Grant project. So before I hand things over to Sandy, I wanted to give a short background about the project. Safe States Alliance released two guidebooks, Preparing to Partner, or as we refer to it, Prepare, and Strengthening Partnerships Between Business and Public Health, a roadmap for advancing community injury and violence prevention, which we refer to as the roadmap, to provide partners with guidance, tools, and case studies for building and sustaining private-public partnerships. Dr. McKay's UT Target Safety Project was one of 3 seed grantees awarded funding to use the tool and showcase the translation of best practices into real-world settings. UT Target Safety is in its second year of seed grant funding and uses the Connect and Plan sections of the roadmap as a guide to strengthen existing partnerships and build new ones. So with that background, I'll turn it over to Dr. McKay to introduce herself and provide a short summary of her project. Dr. McKay?
Thank you so much. So I am a general pediatrician with UT Health Houston and an associate professor in pediatrics. And last year when we were on our journey with Safe States, we had partnered with one of our firearm retailers, which was the Texas Gun Club here in the greater Houston area, and really worked on getting to learn a little bit more about how we can do firearm injury prevention through partnerships with communities. And a lot of our work was getting to know more about, what retailers could do in their spaces and how healthcare professionals could partner with retailers. What were their barriers? What were their the things that they needed from us? How we could work better with them, and starting to work on building up focus groups and getting some of the messaging out. Because what we have started to learn was a lot of people put a lot of messages out there around secure storage and unintentional injury, but is that message the right message that we're using? And what a lot of our work told us was that that message might not be ideal, because the messages that we're using right now really resonate with folks that maybe don't own firearms, and that's really not the target audience that we're going for. We're wanting to shift those hearts and minds in people who own firearms, and we want to make sure that the message that we're translating to are those folks who are storing their firearms, but maybe not storing them properly, maybe coming home and putting that firearm in their nightstand and not necessarily storing them in a safe or storing them securely. So that was a lot of our work in Prepare, which was laying that foundational work, which was really so important to start informing that next step, which was that Connect and Plan. So what we did with this next round was we built a coalition here in the state of Texas, which was so exciting and fun. So, we took some of those partners, not only within healthcare, so we also reached out to the community as well. So we started looking at who else cares about this issue with us. So we looked at, being a general pediatrician, we looked at other pediatric partners that also care about this issue as well. But we also looked to other areas where people are injured by firearms. And so that also included our veteran community, which, me being a pediatrician, I don't necessarily deal with the veteran community on a regular basis. So it was a great learning experience for me to kind of reach out and grow a little bit and get to know some folks from a different area. And, they have a vast amount of resources over there, but, they had not encountered or dealt a lot in the pediatric world as well. So it was a great way to connect with new partners, and then started connecting more with other, injury prevention researchers, and also connecting more with other retailers as well, and started connecting more with some folks that were into suicide prevention as well. So we started hosting monthly meetings to identify where our goals and objectives were. We also invited firearm advocacy groups. So it was really neat because we had this group of folks that were really, very, firearm retailers, kind of more community. I work a lot with firearm owners. I'm right there in the community, versus folks that were, to the other end of the spectrum, people who were down in Austin working on firearm legislation, kind of the complete opposite group that you would even think that would be working in the same space together. So it was really fun to kind of pull this whole group of people together to start looking at, how are we going to tackle this, question of, suicide and unintentional injury in our communities? What can we do actively in the community space, and so we were able to start challenging some questions like, what is our mission? What is our vision? We developed a mission and a vision statement, and we started developing a plan on where do we think we need to go moving forward here. And some of our key objectives that came out of this were that we knew we wanted to do something within the retailer space. We thought that this was not easy, let me rephrase that. This was our space that we thought that we could influence because it was a space that was a gap. We knew that retailers wanted to be involved, and that they said that they wanted to have a voice and a space to be involved with, and that came out very clear. But they also said that they don't have any of those resources. They didn't have any tools, and that they would like some tools. And they felt that the tools that were available to them currently just weren't very adequate for them. They didn't have good suicide prevention materials. And really the things that they had for them around secure storage, they really didn't feel like the messaging was that good. They're required to hand out secure storage information with point of sale on all handgun sales, but they say that the materials that are given to them from the ATF are very inadequate, and they're embarrassed to even hand them out, so they just throw them in a bag. So there's lots of opportunities for us to partner with them to provide better informational materials and education to them. I mean, they see themselves as experts in, firearm handling and firearm safety, but how to get that message in a more consistent and uniform manner, that is really something that our coalition feels like we can really delve into and offer this in a more efficient way, in a more consistent way, and even a little bit more of an evidence-based way when we put on that researcher hat as well and say, how can we do this in a way that we can show from, a research perspective that, yeah, this does work. This actually does work. This actually does change some minds here. And so that's really where we're looking at. We continue to work through focus groups to refine some of those messagings as well. So that way we know that we're, hitting our target the right way. So it's been a really incredible journey. It's been fun to work with new partners, some different partners, and really bring people together in a virtual room. But COVID gave us the gift of feeling comfortable virtually. And I think that's also been really incredible to see people come together. And so it's been a great journey.
That's great. It really feels like your project is digging into some of those concepts from the Connect, from the roadmap, like the increasing your cross-sector collaboration. So bringing in the veterans, bringing in different groups who you necessarily hadn't worked with before, and really looking at those shared priority areas. So when you were conducting your focus groups and looking at your firearms messaging, did you have a big aha moment when you were doing those focus groups and trying to determine like what messaging works best for this group that they could use?
Yeah, I think one thing came through loud and clear is that firearm owners did not resonate with statistical-based messaging at all. They were very distrustful of them. They didn't want to even reflect on them at all. I mean, it was shut down across the board among firearm owners, even among veterans. They said, I don't believe your statistics. I don't trust your statistics. And even some of the messaging around when we brought in anecdotal stories of like, oh, this child was hurt by a firearm. A lot of it was like, well, that's not going to be my kid. I don't do that. So there's still even a little bit of off-putting from there. I think the biggest message that was more resonated was when you could relate it to something that they could relate with. So an example was, like every parent can relate to a child finding a Sharpie and coloring on the wall. And while that doesn't elevate to the level of a firearm injury, every parent was like, oh yeah, I always lock up my Sharpies. It's like, okay, well, what about your guns? Oh yeah, that's actually a great idea. I should do that. That's the level where they think you have to make it relatable. And also the analogy of firearm as a tool came through incredibly strong across all focus groups. And so how to utilize that analogy is going to be really important in messaging.
That's great. I've seen the mock-ups and they're wonderful, and we're really excited to see what the folks have to say about those. I know you've gotten some great feedback. So moving to kind of a different vein, so during your project, did you have any barriers or challenges that came up? And how did you work through those challenges?
Yeah, when you get a group of people in a room, everyone has an opinion. And so we always have to work through people's opinions and make sure that everyone comes together at a consensus. People were very concerned about a lot of things, but I think the thing that our biggest message we took home is that words really do matter to this group that we had convened. To come up with a mission statement took us 3 meetings because people agonized over, like, is this the right word? Should we use the word promote? Is promote the right word? And it was like a 30-minute discussion over whether or not the word promote was the right word. The other barrier that we ran into was that we also ran into a group of folks who were super excited to finally be in the room together. And as a result, they started inviting a bunch of other people to join them. And all of a sudden, the room got really big. And we found ourselves with, one meeting, we had like over 30 people there. And I was like, wow, I love that y'all are engaged. But we're still in a planning phase. We're not at an execution phase yet. And we probably don't need everybody here for this meeting. And so that's really hard when you have like all this like pent up excitement. And we really do need to make sure that we contain some of the excitement in a respectful way.
Absolutely. You want to be able to, hone in on those priority areas and ensure that you're meeting your goal or looking at your goal for the group without having so many voices in the room where it gets overwhelming. Absolutely. So what advice would you give to partners who are working on firearm prevention, firearm violence prevention, or other topic areas that could possibly be, a little bit contentious at times?
Really do a thorough stakeholder analysis and look at all the areas. I think it's really common that when you get into areas that may seem controversial, that we tend to fall into our own echo chambers and we tend to only work with the same people over and over. And think outside the box and invite folks, because one of the most rewarding parts has been working with the retailers. And the first times that we've invited them, at first they were a little reluctant to be like, why are you talking to us? And then when we just started explaining our mission, they're like, well, we're the experts in firearm safety because we have to teach people about safety. And why have you guys never come and talked to us before? And it's like, I don't know why, but I'm here now. And it's just so important because they do have a lot of commonalities with, our same missions. And when we really sit and talk with them, it's like they all care about the same thing. It's safety, And so sometimes we have to not be afraid to reach out to other people and consider, hey, maybe they had the same mission that we do, and not be afraid to open that door.
That's great. And, that brings me back. One of the things you said about looking at your stakeholders, there's some great tools in the Prepare guidebook that could actually help with that. And so we'll be dropping the link. I will drop it right here in the chat for some of those case studies, as well as the roadmap and the Prepare guidebooks, so that you can have those and for easy access. Well, I just want to tell you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. McKay, for being here today and providing us your insight on how you worked with your community to move this topic forward. As always, we learned so much from you, and we really appreciate you being here.
That was my pleasure. Thank you so much.